The massive alien ship hung in the void above Kepler 442b, its bioluminescent hull pulsing with colors that had no human names. Inside the vessel's deepest chamber, Captain Jake Morrison stood before the Council of 7 Species, his wrists bound by energy shackles that hummed against his skin. "The human has destroyed our mining operation," declared Ambassador Thrix, his tentacled form writhing with barely contained rage. The Zalathi's 3 eyes fixed on Jake with murderous intent. 40 cycles of work. Gone. Because of this primitive creature. 4. Jake kept his face neutral, though satisfaction burned in his chest. The illegal mining operation had been poisoning an entire ocean ecosystem on the planet below. He'd done what needed doing. "The punishment is clear," hissed another council member, a serpentine Corvax whose scales shifted between silver and black. "Feed him to the Kraken." A ripple of approval passed through the chamber. Even the usually peaceful Etherians, beings of pure energy contained in crystalline shells, pulsed their agreement. The Kraken was their ultimate deterrent, an ancient creature they discovered hibernating in the depths of a dead world and brought aboard their ship as an executioner. "You surface dwellers always make the same mistake," Jake said, his voice carrying across the chamber. The translator collar around his neck converted his words into 7 different languages simultaneously. "You think humans are weak because we're small, because we don't have claws or fangs or psychic abilities." Ambassador Thrix's tentacles curled in what Jake recognized as amusement. "Your bravado will not save you, human. The Kraken has devoured warriors from 100 worlds. Champions who could tear your soft body apart with a thought." End quote. They marched him through corridors that seemed more grown than built, the walls pulsing with bioluminescent veins. Other aliens pressed against the transparent barriers to watch him pass. Some looked sympathetic, others eager for the spectacle to come. The execution chamber was a massive sphere, filled with dark water that seemed to absorb light. At its center, barely visible through the murk, something vast and terrible waited. The Kraken. Jake could make out tentacles thicker than tree trunks, covered in suckers lined with teeth. Ancient eyes, each the size of a shuttlecraft, glowed with alien intelligence. "Any last words?" Ambassador Thrix asked, gesturing for the guards to position Jake on the feeding platform. Jake rolled his shoulders, testing the give in his restraints. "Yeah, you might want to evacuate this level." The council members exchanged glances, some approximating laughter in their various ways. The platform began extending over the dark water. Below, the Kraken stirred. Sensing prey, they released his shackles as the platform reached the center. No point in restraints now. Where could he run? Jake rubbed his wrists, then calmly sat down cross-legged on the platform. "What are you doing?" demanded Thrix over the intercom. "Waiting," Jake replied. He closed his eyes and began taking deep, measured breaths. The water below churned. A massive tentacle rose, dripping with bioluminescent slime. It moved almost lazily, confident in its power. The tip brushed against the platform, tasting the metal, searching for the organic prize. Jake's eyes snapped open. In one fluid motion, he grabbed the probing tentacle with both hands. The Kraken recoiled at the sudden contact, then struck with terrible speed. Jake had been counting on that. As the tentacle whipped him through the air, Jake held on and twisted his body, using the creature's own momentum. His hands found what they were looking for. A nerve cluster just below the 3rd row of suckers. He'd studied every piece of data the aliens had on their pet monster during his mock trial. The effect was immediate. The Kraken's nervous system, evolved over millions of years to process the bioelectric fields of its prey, encountered something it had never experienced before. Human neural electricity was different, chaotic, unpredictable, and backed by something no other species possessed: pure, distilled stubbornness. Jake pressed his fingers deeper into the nerve cluster and thought about pain. Not his pain. He pushed out every memory of injury, every moment of agony he'd ever experienced. Broken bones from his time in Earth's military, burns from when his colony ship crash-landed. The grief of losing friends in humanity's first contact war. The Kraken shrieked, a sound that shattered several observation panels. Its tentacles thrashed wildly, smashing against the chamber walls. Jake held on, pouring more memories into the connection. The time he'd been tortured by vegan raiders, the months of starvation on Proxima 3. The pure human ability to endure suffering and keep functioning. But Jake wasn't done. Now he pushed out something else. The human capacity for violence. Every bar fight, every battle, every moment when civilization's mask had slipped and revealed the predator beneath. He showed the Kraken images from human history. Wars that devastated continents. Weapons that could crack worlds. The sheer bloody-minded determination of a species that had climbed to the top of their food chain through cunning and brutality. The ancient creature's mind recoiled from his. It had encountered prey that fought back before, but never prey that attacked its very consciousness. Never prey that seemed to welcome pain, that grew stronger from suffering, that had evolved on a world where everything tried to kill everything else, and only the most ruthlessly adaptive survived. With a final psychic wail, the Kraken flung Jake away. He hit the platform hard, rolling to absorb the impact. When he looked up, the massive creature was retreating to the deepest part of its tank. Tentacles pulled tight against its body. Its ancient eyes, which had gazed upon the death of stars, now showed something new. Fear. Impossible, Thrix's voice crackled over the intercom. The Kraken has never. It has never refused prey. Jake stood slowly, wiping purple blood from a cut on his forehead. I told you. You don't understand humans. We didn't evolve in some peaceful garden world. Earth tried to kill us with ice ages, supervolcanoes, diseases, predators, and when those didn't work, we started killing each other. You know what that kind of evolutionary pressure creates? The observation deck had gone silent. Jake could see the various aliens pressing against the barriers, their xenobiological displays of shock evident even across species lines. It creates survivors, Jake continued, walking to the edge of the platform. It creates a species that turns suffering into strength. You've kept that thing as a pet, feeding it prisoners who were already broken by fear. You never fed it a human who'd been through worse and came out the other side. Below, the Kraken had compressed itself into the smallest space its massive form could manage. Occasionally, one great eye would swivel toward Jake, then quickly look away. Bring him back, ordered a new voice. Jake recognized it as High Counselor Vex, eldest of the council. Immediately, the platform began retracting. As it moved, Jake noticed something interesting. Several of the guards had stepped back from their positions. The Etherian council member had dimmed its energy output. Even through alien body language, Jake could read the universal signs of uncertainty. When the platform locked back into position, no one moved to restrain him. Jake stood there, dripping with tank water, surrounded by some of the galaxy's most powerful species. The silence stretched until it became uncomfortable. Finally, High Counselor Vex spoke. The human will be returned to his cell while we deliberate. What about the mining operation? Thrix demanded. Vex's forearms made a gesture Jake didn't recognize. Perhaps we should reconsider the environmental impact studies the human submitted. The ones we ignored. As guards escorted Jake from the chamber, keeping a respectful distance now, he passed by the observation panel overlooking the Kraken's tank. The ancient creature was still huddled in the corner, occasionally shuddering. When it sensed Jake's presence, it pressed itself even flatter against the bottom of the tank. Hey, Jake called out, knowing the creature could sense his bioelectric field through the water. No hard feelings. You were just doing what they trained you to do. The Kraken's tentacles pulled tighter. Jake shrugged and continued walking. Behind him, he heard Thrix's agitated voice. We cannot show weakness. The human must be punished. The human, Vex replied slowly, just made our ultimate sanction flee in terror. Perhaps it's time we reconsidered our approach to this species. As Jake was led back to his cell, he allowed himself a small smile. Humanity's reputation in the galaxy had just taken an interesting turn. The story would spread. It always did. How a human had been fed to the ancient Kraken. the devourer of heroes, the nightmare of 100 worlds, and how the Kraken had spit him out and fled. Sometimes, Jake reflected, it paid to be from a species that everyone underestimated. Earth's children might be small, soft, and lacking in natural weapons, but they'd survived their world's best efforts to kill them, and that kind of evolutionary pressure left marks that went deeper than claws or fangs. It left them with the ability to turn any situation to their advantage. Even being eaten, the news spread through the galactic networks faster than light itself, on trade stations, in diplomatic halls, across military installations. Beings of every species whispered about the human who had broken the Kraken. Jake Morrison sat in his redesigned quarters. No longer a cell, though he wasn't quite free either. The Council of 7 Species had been in emergency session for 3 days. Through the transparent wall, he could see the Kraken's tank. The creature hadn't moved from its corner in all that time. A soft chime announced a visitor. The door dilated to reveal Dr. Yana Volkov, the only other human on the ship. She was technically a xenobiologist, though Jake suspected she had other qualifications. Humanity didn't send people into deep space without multiple skill sets. They let you see me? Jake asked, gesturing for her to sit. Yana's smile was tired but genuine. They're too scared to stop me. Half the crew thinks we're some kind of psychic vampires now. She pulled out a medical scanner. Let me check you over. Playing mental tag with an eldritch horror can't have been pleasant. I've had worse hangovers. Jake lied. Truth was, his head felt like someone had been using it as a drum. The human nervous system wasn't designed for direct neural contact with alien minds, but showing weakness now would undermine everything. Your readings are interesting, Yana said, studying the scanner. Your neural activity is off the charts, but stable. It's like your brain adapted to the contact in real time. Humans are good at adapting. It's kind of our thing. Yana set the scanner aside. Jake, what you did, it's going to change everything. The Council built their entire power structure on fear of the Kraken. Now that fear is gone. Not gone, Jake corrected. Transferred. They're afraid of us now. Is that better? Jake considered the question. Through the transparent wall, he could see various aliens gathering around the Kraken's tank. Scientists. From the look of their equipment, the creature remained motionless despite their probes and scans. Fear fades, Jake said finally. But respect? That can last. A commotion outside drew their attention. Ambassador Thrix was arguing with a group of Vordak, insectoid aliens with crystalline wings. Jake's translator collar picked up fragments of the heated discussion. Cannot trust them. Too dangerous. Saw what it did. Potential allies. Misunderstood. Formal apology. Yana raised an eyebrow. Sounds like the Council is divided. Before Jake could respond, the door chimed again. This time, High Counselor Vex entered. Having to duck slightly to fit his 2-meter frame through the opening, his forearms were held in what Jake had learned was a gesture of peaceful intent. Captain Morrison. Dr. Volkov. Vex's voice was deep, resonating through harmonics human vocal cords couldn't produce. I apologize for the interruption. No interruption, Jake said carefully. First rule of diplomacy. When the powerful apologize, something big is happening. I wish to speak plainly, Vex said. May I? Jake nodded. Please do. Your demonstration has created complications. Several member species are demanding your immediate release. Others insist you're too dangerous to live. Ambassador Thrix has called for your entire species to be quarantined. And what do you think, High Counselor? Vex's primary eyes, the ones reserved for truth-seeing, according to Yana's research, focused on Jake. I think we have gravely misunderstood humanity. You are not the primitive species we assumed. You are something far more dangerous. Jake tensed, but Vex raised a hand. I speak of danger in the ancient sense. A storm is dangerous. A star going nova is dangerous. These things simply are, neither good nor evil. Humanity, he paused, choosing his words. You survived a world that should have killed you. You turned that survival into strength. And now you walk among the stars. carrying that strength with you. We're not conquerors, Yana interjected. Humanity wants partners, not subjects. Which is precisely what makes you dangerous, Vex replied. Conquerors, we understand. We have protocols for them. But a species that can break our greatest weapon with will alone, yet speaks of partnership? This is unprecedented. Through the wall, they watched as the kraken suddenly moved. Its tentacles uncurled slightly, and one great eye swiveled to look directly at Jake. Even from this distance, Jake could feel its attention like a physical weight. It watches you constantly now, Vex observed. The xenobiologists are baffled. It shows signs of respect? Fear? We have no framework for this behavior. It's learning, Jake said. That's what predators do when they encounter something new. They study it, understand it, adapt to it. You speak as if you understand the creature. I understand being a predator trying to survive in a universe full of other predators, Jake said. The kraken and I, we're not that different. Both products of evolution. Both shaped by pressure and time. The only difference is, humans learn to work together, to turn our individual weaknesses into collective strength. Vex was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice carried the weight of decision. The council will vote tomorrow. I cannot speak for the others, but I will propose something radical, which is full membership for humanity in the Council of 7, which would become 8. Equal standing, equal voice, equal responsibility. Yana's breath caught. That's High Counselor, no species has been offered membership in 300 cycles. No species has ever made the kraken flee in terror, Vex countered. The old paradigms no longer apply. We must adapt or become obsolete. He turned to leave, then paused. Captain Morrison. A question. When you connected with the kraken's mind, what did you show it? What could possibly frighten a creature that has lived since before some of our stars were born? Jake met those ancient eyes steadily. I showed it humanity's survival. Every plague we've beaten, every disaster we've endured, every time we should have gone extinct but didn't. I showed it a species that turns adversity into evolution, that grows stronger from every attempt to kill us. But most importantly, yes, I showed it that we enjoy the struggle. That we don't just endure hardship, we seek it out. We climb mountains because they're there. We dive to crushing depths to see what's down there. We strap ourselves to explosions to reach the stars. The kraken is a predator, but it's a rational one. It kills to eat, to survive. Humans? Jake smiled, and it wasn't entirely a pleasant expression. We wrestle with death for fun. Vex's chromatic skin shifted through several colors Jake couldn't interpret. I see. That is illuminating. He gestured formally. Until tomorrow, then. After he left, Yana turned to Jake. Do you think they'll accept us? Jake watched the kraken, still observing him from across the distance. They'll accept us, or they'll try to destroy us. But after today, they won't underestimate us again. The ship's lights dimmed to simulate night cycle. In the darkness, Jake could still feel the kraken's attention. Two predators, recognizing each other across the gulf of species and evolution. Tomorrow would bring either humanity's elevation or its greatest challenge yet. But tonight, Jake allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. Humanity had announced itself on the galactic stage in the most human way possible, by taking their worst punishment and turning it into a demonstration of power. The stars outside seemed a little less foreign now, a little more like territory waiting to be explored. Earth's children were coming into their inheritance, and the universe would never be the same. In its tank, the kraken shifted slightly. For just a moment, its tentacles moved in what might have been acknowledgement. Predator to predator. Survivor to survivor. The game had changed, and everyone knew it. Tomorrow would bring the council's decision. Tonight, Jake Morrison, the human who had been fed to the ancient kraken and emerged victorious, sat in quiet contemplation of how far humanity had come and how far they still had to go. The council chamber had been reconfigured overnight. Where 7 seats once formed a circle of judgment, 8 now stood in a configuration that xeno-architects would later call the harmony of predators. Jake Morrison stood in the center, no longer a prisoner, but not yet an equal. Around him, the most powerful beings in known space had gathered. Not just the council, but representatives from dozens of species. The air itself seemed to vibrate with tension. Electromagnetic fields from various alien physiologies, creating visible distortions. Ambassador Thrix spoke first, his tentacles rigid with displeasure. This is unprecedented. Dangerous. The human has shown he can weaponize his very thoughts. What happens when there are billions of them among us? Flos, what happens, said Counselor Vex calmly, is evolution. The galaxy changes, as it always has. The Korvax delegation supports membership, hissed the Serpentine Counselor. Better to have humanity as allies than enemies. We have seen what one human can do. We do not wish to see what their fleets might accomplish. Well, through the transparent dome above, Jake could see Earth's first diplomatic vessel approaching. The UES Endurance was small by galactic standards, but its arrival had drawn every sensor array in the system. Humanity was watching. The galaxy was watching. Before we vote, announced the Etherian Counselor, its crystalline form pulsing with careful modulation. There is something that must be witnessed. The floor became transparent, revealing the Kraken's chamber below. The ancient creature was no longer huddled in the corner. It floated in the center of its tank, tentacles spread in what Jake recognized as a neutral posture, waiting. The Kraken has served as our ultimate sanction for 1,000 cycles, the Etherian continued. It has been judge, jury, and executioner. But yesterday, it met something it could not consume. Something that consumed it instead. In a way, none of us anticipated. I didn't consume anything, Jake protested. Didn't you? The Etherian's frequencies shifted to what might have been amusement. You took our greatest fear and made it yours. You showed it something that terrified it more than death, a species that transforms trauma into power. The question now is, what do we do with this knowledge? A new voice interrupted. Perhaps you should ask the Kraken. Every being in the chamber turned. The speaker was Dr. Yana Volkov, standing at the entrance with a device Jake didn't recognize. Dr. Volkov, Vex said carefully, this is a closed session. With respect, High Counselor, you're about to vote on humanity's fate based on incomplete information. She held up the device. I've spent the last 12 hours analyzing the neural feedback from Jake's encounter. The Kraken didn't just flee in terror. It did something else, something unprecedented. She activated the device. Holographic displays filled the air, showing brainwave patterns, neural maps, chemical analyses. To Jake, it looked like abstract art. To the assembled aliens, judging by their reactions, it was revolutionary. The Kraken established a permanent neural link, Yana explained. Not with Jake specifically, but with humanity's collective unconscious. It's been learning, adapting, evolving. Impossible, Thrix sputtered. The Kraken is perfect. It doesn't need to evolve. Nothing is perfect, Jake said quietly. That's the first lesson Earth teaches. Perfection is death. Evolution is survival. Below them, the Kraken moved. Its tentacles began weaving patterns that looked almost like communication. Several xenolinguists in the observation galleries started frantically taking notes. It's trying to speak, one called out. The patterns match theoretical models for cross-species communication. Vex turned to Jake. Can you understand it? Jake closed his eyes, reaching out with senses that his encounter had awakened. The neural link was there. Faint but present. Not words, exactly, but concepts. Images, emotions too vast for human language. It's lonely, Jake said finally. It's been alone for so long, the only one of its kind. Fed prisoners, who couldn't understand it, couldn't challenge it. Until yesterday. Quote, "What does it want?" Jake opened his eyes. "The same thing humanity wants. Not to be alone in the universe. To find others who understand the deep dark, who've survived impossible odds, who know that strength comes from struggle." The chamber fell silent. Below, the Kraken's patterns grew more complex, more insistent. "It wants to come with us," Jake realized. "When humanity takes its place among the stars, it wants to come with us. Not as a pet or a weapon, but as a partner." "This is insanity," Thrix declared. "You cannot seriously suggest." "I suggest nothing," Jake interrupted. "I simply translate. The choice is yours. Accept humanity and accept that we change things. Or reject us and wonder forever what might have been." Counselor Vex raised his primary arms. "We will vote. All in favor of admitting humanity to the Council of Eight?" One by one, the lights activated. Vex first. Then the Korvax. The Etherean's glow shifted to approval. Even species Jake hadn't expected began signaling agreement. In the end, only Thrix stood opposed, and even his resistance seemed more reflexive than genuine. "The motion passes," Vex announced. "Humanity is welcome to the Council. May the universe forgive us for what we've unleashed. R. Dot." Jake felt the weight of the moment. Outside, the Endurance was deploying communication arrays. On Earth, billions waited for news. Humanity had spent its entire history looking up at the stars and wondering if anyone looked back. Now they knew. "There is one more matter," Jake said. "The Kraken." Every eye, organ, and sensor turned to him. "Humanity accepts its place on the Council. But we have a condition." He pointed down at the creature that had become Earth's strangest ally. "It comes with us. Not as property, but as a citizen. If we're going to change the galaxy, we're going to do it right." "You cannot be serious," Thrix said, but his protest lacked conviction. "Dead serious," Jake replied. "Earth taught us that former enemies make the strongest allies. That predator and prey are just points of view. The Kraken chose to connect with humanity. We choose to honor that connection." Below, the ancient creature's patterns shifted to something that needed no translation. Joy. Pure, simple joy at no longer being alone. The vote was closer this time, but it passed. As the Council adjourned to prepare for humanity's formal induction, Jake remained in the chamber. Yana joined him, along with the first human diplomats from the Endurance. "So," she said quietly, "we're not just joining the galactic community. We're transforming it." "Humanity doesn't do anything halfway," Jake replied. "Go big or go home, right?" Through the transparent floor, they watched the Kraken swim lazy circles, its tentacles weaving greeting patterns at the humans above. The creature that had devoured heroes and broken armies had found something it valued more than fear or food. It had found kindred spirits. "The galaxy isn't ready for us," one of the diplomats murmured. "No," Jake agreed. "But they will be. We'll teach them what Earth taught us. That pressure makes diamonds. That survival isn't about being the strongest or the smartest or the most advanced. It's about being willing to change, to grow, to turn your greatest weakness into your greatest strength." As the stars wheeled overhead, humanity took its place among them. Not as conquerors or subjects, but as something far more dangerous. Catalysts. They brought with them the lessons of a hostile world, that cooperation beats competition, that diversity is strength, and that sometimes the best response to a monster trying to eat you is to become so interesting that it wants to be your friend instead. The Kraken, ancient beyond measure, swam contentedly in its tank. It had eaten heroes from 100 worlds, but only humanity had eaten back, consuming its loneliness and offering companionship in return. In the years to come, historians would mark this moment as the turning point, when humanity didn't just join the galactic community but fundamentally transformed it, when they proved that the most powerful force in the universe wasn't weapons or technology or psychic abilities, it was the simple, stubborn human refusal to accept things as they were. The drive to make them better. even if it meant befriending the monster under the bed. The Council of Eight's first unanimous decision would be to redesign the Kraken's tank, making it larger, more comfortable, with viewing ports so it could watch the stars it had never seen. Because if humanity was going to drag the galaxy kicking and screaming into a new age, they were going to do it with style. And somewhere in the deep dark between stars, other ancient things stirred. Word spread through channels older than civilization. The humans were coming, the humans who had tamed the Kraken not through force but through understanding. The humans who looked at the infinite dark and said, "Let's be friends." The galaxy would never be the same. And that, Jake Morrison thought as he watched Earth's blue marble growing larger on the screens, was exactly the point.